Digital gaslighting. In 2026, it is the fastest growing form of psychological abuse, and most people never recognize it happening. Because the tools look completely normal, a phone, a message, a notification. What makes it abuse isn't the technology itself. It's the deliberate, systematic use of that technology to make you doubt your own perception of reality. Tactic 1. Message manipulation. Screenshots edited with surgical precision. Timestamps altered. Conversations screenshotted out of context. Stripped of everything surrounding them. You remember exactly what was said. They show you something different. The more clearly you remember, the more unstable you appear. That deliberate confusion, the gap between your memory and their evidence, is not accidental. It is the entire goal. They respond instantly when they want you close and go dark for hours when they want you anxious. The deliberate read receipt, the typing bubble that appears, then vanishes without a message. These are not moods, they are moves. Each one calculated to keep your nervous system locked in low-level emergency mode, which makes you far easier to manage and manipulate. Tactic 2. Location tracking weaponized as leverage. When they know exactly where you are at every moment, they can construct their narrative before you ever open your mouth. By the time you explain your day, they already know. When your story doesn't perfectly align with their surveillance data, they have their opening. What presents as concern is actually infrastructure for control. Their social media becomes a weapon aimed directly at your nervous system. Strategic posts timed to provoke your jealousy, then immediate denial that anything was intended. You're imagining it. You're obsessed. You're reading into things. The platform becomes their stage, their broadcast channel. Every post, every calculated silence, every strategic like is deliberate, targeted, and aimed precisely at you. Tactic 3. Digital erasure. Sending messages, then deleting them before you can respond. Many messaging apps allow this. They use it specifically, not for privacy, not by accident, but to erase evidence of their own behavior and leave you holding a memory that no one else can confirm. Your recollection exists, the record does not. That gap is their weapon. Now artificial intelligence is fully inside the manipulation toolkit, generating convincing fake screenshots of conversations that never happened, producing realistic audio of people saying things they never actually said. The technology required costs almost nothing and takes 30 minutes. Your memory against AI-generated content is not a fair fight. This is not a future threat. This is the present reality. Tactic 4. Manufactured paper trails, fake emails, altered documents, screenshots with metadata stripped clean. If you ever question them, they arrive ready, fully documented, evidence in hand. You have only your memory and your word. They understand precisely which one carries weight in a dispute. They build the case against you methodically before the conflict has even technically started. Digital triangulation. Feeding different versions of the same events to different people through separate message threads simultaneously. Each person receives a carefully tailored story that positions you as the origin of the problem. By the time you compare notes with anyone who might believe you, the narrative is already settled and distributed. You are always one step behind, by design. They choose when to respond and when to vanish, based entirely on your emotional state, not their actual availability. They are online. You can see it. The status indicator confirms it. The silence is intentional, engineered, and calibrated. It has a name: strategic non-response. It is a control mechanism wearing the convincing costume of a mood or a busy schedule. Tactic 5. The retroactive reframe. After a conflict erupts, they scroll back through your shared message history and reinterpret it with new, damaging meaning. See, even back here, you were starting something. Your own words, stripped of their original context and intent, rebuilt into a case against you. Your communication history becomes evidence assembled entirely in their favor. Group chats become arenas for public humiliation with built-in plausible deniability. Subtle jabs landed in front of mutual contacts. Pointed comments disguised as observations. When you respond, they insist you misread the tone. It was just a joke. You're so sensitive. In text, tone is inherently ambiguous, and they exploit that ambiguity deliberately as a feature, not an oversight. Smart home devices opened an entirely new dimension of environmental control, adjusting the thermostat, dimming the lights, locking doors remotely, then denying they touched anything. The house is fine, you're just stressed. When the physical environment itself becomes an instrument of confusion, gaslighting no longer needs a single spoken word. It is built directly into the architecture of the room. You start monitoring your own behavior, rereading your messages before sending, deleting things you wrote, in case they get screenshotted out of context. When you begin modifying what you say and do to manage someone else's unpredictable reaction, that is not self-awareness. That is not caution. That is the definition of living under another person's active psychological control. Tactic 6. Surveillance as intimidation without confrontation. They don't act on what they observe. They simply let you know they have been watching. I noticed you left early. I saw your location at that time. No accusation required. The awareness of being observed is sufficient to restrict your behavior, reshape your choices, and keep you permanently within reach. That is the entire point. Voice notes and call recordings sent to mutual contacts, out of context, edited for emotional impact. Listen to how she actually talks to me. Audio carries emotional weight that plain text cannot replicate. That weight is precisely why they choose voice messaging. The delivery causes psychological damage before the content is even consciously processed by whoever receives and listens to it. Your calendar, your location history, your browsing data, accessed not to help manage your life, but to quietly build a case. Every data point becomes potential ammunition for an argument you do not yet know is already being assembled against you. The moment that pattern becomes visible, do not explain it away. Trust the instinct before you trust their explanation. Public validation weaponized as control. They inflate your social standing when they want closeness, liking everything publicly, commenting warmly. Then they disappear entirely from your digital life when they want you anxious about how others perceive you. The online audience is a tool they manage with deliberate precision. They have been using it since before you ever noticed. Tactic 7. The phantom device. A secondary phone, an anonymous account, or a number you never knew about, used to monitor you covertly, test your loyalty, or gather information without your knowledge. When discovered, the explanation is always innocent-sounding and entirely reasonable. It never is. If you find one device you were not told about, assume there are more. They use platform algorithms as weapons by proxy, mass reporting your accounts, flagging your content for automated review, getting you suspended or silenced, all while maintaining absolute plausible deniability. I never reported you. The platform handles enforcement. They remain untouched. You lose your accounts, your audience, your voice. They stay clean behind the policy. That asymmetry is completely intentional. Here is what every single one of these tactics shares. Each is specifically engineered to make you appear unstable or paranoid if you attempt to report it. They edited screenshots. They faked audio. They tracked my location. Heard individually, each claim sounds like conspiracy thinking. Together, they form a coherent and documented system. That coherence is the deliberate, intentional design. Defense Layer 1. Document everything yourself, completely independent of their access. Screenshots with timestamps, records sent immediately to a private email account they cannot reach. Your evidence must live somewhere entirely outside their sphere of influence. Begin the moment something feels wrong, not weeks later, after the damage has already compounded and the memories have started to blur at the edges. Defense Layer 2. Platform Hygiene. Audit every application that has access to your location, your smart home, and your accounts. Revoke every permission you did not consciously and recently grant. Change passwords on every account they have ever accessed. A clean digital environment removes the tools before they become weapons. This is not paranoia. It is essential and overdue maintenance. Defense Layer 3. Triangulate with trusted people in real time. Not retrospectively, weeks after the fact. If something feels wrong, tell a specific person immediately. Document what was said, exactly when, and precisely how it landed. Real-time witnesses are dramatically harder to dismiss, discredit, or gaslight away than memories you're reconstructing long after the events have faded and the details blurred. Notice the exact moment you begin pre-editing yourself, when you are rewriting messages before sending, deleting things you said to avoid someone else's unpredictable reaction. That is not caution. That is not growth. That is a signal the dynamic has already colonized your thinking from the inside. Name it out loud. The act of naming it is the first disruption. Metadata is your silent, invisible ally. Every digital image, document, and message carries embedded data, timestamps, device identifiers, edit histories, sometimes precise location. Free tools can read this information. If something has been altered or fabricated, the metadata almost always carries the evidence. Learn to check it before you decide whether to trust the content you've been shown. Digital evidence is now routinely accepted and admitted in legal proceedings worldwide. Keep records with specific dates. Store them off-device in a location that cannot be remotely accessed or deleted. From the first moment something feels wrong, treat your documentation as a potential future case file, because it may become exactly that, sooner than you ever expected or wanted it to. The goal of digital